Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 241 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one League of Legends solo queue educational and motivational podcast. Curtis, Charlie, we're going to be talking about League of Legends today, improving at solo queue in League of Legends. Let's start off, Curtis, with the mid game. What are the 7 secret herbs and spices to the mid game? Or is it 12 secret herbs and spices?
KFC.
KFC. What's I'm trying to reference.
KFC is 12,
12.
I believe, but don't fact check me on that.
So what are the 12 secret herbs and spices to mid game, Curtis?
All right. We're going to unpack this.
Why did this come up, Curtis? Explain to me.
Where does this come from?
Where does this come from?
Why are we
Curtis?
talking about mid-game again? All right. That's a good question. So, all of us, through our many coaching sessions, we get a wide variety of questions about mid-game. It could be anything from lane assignments, contesting neutrals, team fights. I mean, there is many things that go into mid-game. And I feel like there is a lot of content out there covering mid-game in regards to either very general kind of approaches or very specific instances. But I feel like something that is not very well articulated in regards to mid-game is what the hell is mid-game about, and how should one think about mid-game at a very high level such that you can like break it down and understand the mid-game learning journey. Okay, so what I want to start with at a high level here, guys, is the way I am teaching mid-game, the modern way. This is the 2025 season 15 modernized mid-game teaching methodology.
That's the title of this episode. How to play the mid-game in 2025.
Exactly right. So, what people first need to understand is that mid-game is made up of, let's say, we're going to set an arbitrary number. It could be somewhere in the ballpark. It could be 12. It could be 15 concepts, individual concepts, right? I'm just going to, let's all rattle off a few. You have lane assignments.
Mid-priority. Objective, what the next objective is.
What the next objective is.
Side laning.
Yep, side laning. That's a very big one, but let's say side laning in general. You've got like prepping vision. Fog of War, like understanding Fog of War.
Is
tempo.
Identifying win condition.
Yep.
Like playing how to play fights.
How to play fights. Understanding your role in a comp.
Yeah,
win conditions.
Assessment, yep.
That's just what, 10, 12 right there already. Now, the way you want to view it.
Item spikes.
Yep. Item spikes, level spikes, ultimate cooldowns.
Threat assessment.
Summoners. Understanding summoners.
I love
Yep.
League of Legends.
Okay.
So that's so cool.
So when the way you want to view it is that I'm going to use a metaphor here to describe it. Imagine you're watching a movie. And in this movie, every now and then it cuts out for about 30 seconds. Maybe every 2 minutes or 3 minutes it cuts out for 30 seconds. And you keep watching it.
It's like a black screen.
Just black screen. No audio, nothing. Black screen.
Terrible movie.
And then you go to the net and you keep going. And like, oh, okay. You're trying to catch up, figure out what the hell's going on. And it cuts out for another 30 seconds.
Oh, you mean the movie's still playing?
The movie's still playing.
Oh, so you just go to
go into the future
30
somewhere.
seconds.
Exactly right. You're in you're at some point in the future, 30 seconds later in that movie.
Yeah.
And
You've got a faulty TV or something.
Could be the case, right? Now, as you're watching that movie, you might miss some pretty important details. You might miss some pretty important dialogue. You might miss some pretty important scenes, but at a high level, you do understand the gist of the movie, don't you? Right? You would understand, okay, this is an action movie. This guy dies in the end. The good guys win. You'll kind of have like some general overview understanding of the movie. The reason I wanted to bring this up is like that's how most people experience mid-game in their solo queue, whereby they understand parts of the mid-game, but there's things missing.
Yes,
And
I like this analogy.
so there's elements missing where it could be maybe they mess up a reset. Maybe they don't see the next major neutral objective. Maybe they didn't know what the lane assignments were.
Junglers, they start hitting their camps when their teammates have Baron or Waves ready to go. The support's like on the map, ready to go from a fresh base, and the junglers is like hitting the Gromp.
Yep, I love that. Yep.
So these exactly right. So the way you want to view it is that time of 30 seconds that had gone dark. That represents maybe 1 or 2 or 3, maybe sometimes just 1 though, a concept missing in your mid game. Your goal when you're trying to improve your mid game is to basically fill in all the gaps, all the concepts, such that over the course of hundreds and thousands of games, you're literally just trying to learn each and understand and execute upon each of the individual concepts. Every mid game is actually essentially a training mechanism for you to understand what mid games are, what concepts are at play, and understand them better and understand how to plug and play them in your game. And so the way you want to view it, if you're brand new to mid game, there's some giant 20%ers which are going to make up, let's say, the majority of the movie, right? Which is baseline understanding of grouping on neutrals, baseline understanding of your role, baseline understanding of who's strong and who's weak. And you start very high level. And that's going to make up a pretty big chunk of the movie, right? You can have a rough understanding of the way the trajectory of the movie is going.
You can do actually quite well with just that. Yeah.
You can know if there's an action movie, who's winning, who's doing, but you're missing a lot and it won't be a great smooth experience. It won't be a smooth mid-game experience, and it won't be a smooth viewing experience in the movie. When you become a very high-level League of Legends player, when you guys have had your best games of League, everything...
There's no black screens.
There's no black screens. Everything joins perfectly. Everything is smooth. There's all the transition periods, every reset, every neutral, everything joins and clicks beautifully. It's like in a movie, every shot, every scene, every bit of dialogue, everything matches up and blends for this beautiful movie or beautiful League of Legends experience. And you won't feel that to the very end of your League of Legends journey as you're really tying together all those concepts and you understand all the transition periods, you understand how the win con changes, when the next neutral, should you contest it, should you not fight? All of it's blending beautifully. Just like as a beautiful movie experience, a masterful movie, it's just like an excellent viewing experience. Every little detail matters. And the point that I'm trying to make here in a long-winded way is that people come in and they're thinking, I just want to win the mid game. I just want to kill the Nexus. And sure, that's a great place to start. You want to know what happens at the end of the movie. But the goal of every mid game is actually not to get to the end of the movie. You want to just
fill in gaps.
Fill as many gaps as you possibly can. And if that means the end of the last 10 minutes of the movie is completely blank, who gives a shit? As long as you have the most coherent story, the most coherent narrative, you're filling in the most parts of the mid game as possible, and you're trying to fill in those gaps, that's what the mid-game learning journey is all about. It's all about learning the individual concepts. Every mid-game is an opportunity to learn the individual concepts. That's it.
It's just unrealistic if you're learning League and climbing the ladder to expect from just one review or focusing on it for maybe 15 games to just be able to play out the movie perfectly.
No.
This is actually just impossible.
It's actually not going to happen until probably Master Plus.
I didn't figure it out for ages.
Yeah.
I had maybe again some gaps, some like you said, some sequences where, but then I'll just that 30, 40
You'll fumble your way through it.
Yeah, it just feels a bit weird.
Feels off. Something's not right. You'll just fumble your way through it. And that doesn't mean you can't win the game, but it's not going to be a smooth experience. And every now and then you might have this game that just stars align and it goes well, but you won't if you don't understand why the stars aligned and how you can replicate that. Then it's just. You know what I mean? You're not really there. And so I think a lot of people come into mid-game that I just want to have this perfect mid-game. I want to have this clean mid-game. That shouldn't even really be your intention throughout the majority of your League journey. Your intention should just be like, okay, off this deployment, I didn't know where to go.
That's it.
I didn't know where to go top or what. Okay, that's a puzzle. That is there's some concept that I'm missing here.
Yes.
There's something that I don't understand here. That is your learning.
And the thing is, if you miss something like that in your game, then everything falls apart.
Yes, exactly right. That's a really, really astute point, because what happens and this is what I was talking to you about, Charles, the other week, where, and you use this analogy and metaphor all the time, where League is like alternate timelines branch off.
Yeah.
So in mid-game, let's say you fuck up a lane assignment or you fuck up a neutral objective contest. You make the wrong decision. You're in a bad timeline now. And all it takes is maybe one or two, let's say, again, we're going to simplify it. There's a good and bad decision. You make a bad decision twice in a row. You're deep in the depths of an alternate timeline, but the game is completely fucked, and you'll never get the flow back. The flow's gone. That movie is like ejected.
The reason that is in the mid game is because there's staggered death timers and there's staggered tempo. And if I see like a regular mid game from like I don't know, like an emerald or below player in reviews, that's all I see. Is one person dies one at a time, or one person bases one at a time, and no one's there to kind of connect the dots, right?
And you know, tying back to the movie metaphor, what this would look like, right? Imagine if it's like you had too large of gaps in the timeline of the movie, such that the movie loses all coherence. You don't know, you can't read the plot anymore. There is no more plot. It's just a series of individual scenes that happen that actually have no context. And that's what mid-games are for a lot of people. Why? Because they have those giant blocks of time where they don't understand what's going on.
I don't even think people really at a high level even view the mid game in the way that you're describing it.
No.
Though. It's not even like people don't really view it as puzzles, as individual little concepts. It's just kind of like, if I'm ahead, I'm going to go find people and fight them. And if my team's with me, they're playing well. And if they're not with me, they're probably making mistakes. They just blame their team for not being around. And if they're behind, they're just going to sit there farming. That's kind of what people approach mid game from my perspective, right? There's not really much creative problem solving going on.
Exactly right. People kind of view it at a high level as just like a fight fest.
Yeah, it's just fight. If you're ahead, you need to be winning right now. Like if I can't win now, what's going on? Something's going wrong. People get very anxious to end the game, I feel.
So yeah, I just think that and the reason I think this is really important for people to understand is that when you're, especially if you're a random silver player, gold player, platinum player, emerald player, even diamond player, your goal is to then in the review when you're getting into the mid game, when is it the moment where you feel confused? When is it that the moment you feel the game doesn't make sense anymore? Where is it that you feel lost? Those are the moments where the movie's gone dark. What happened there? What is going on in that moment? Now, sometimes they can be very, very big things where it's like you're contesting the wrong neutral. You're not playing in accordance to your win condition. You're completely desynced with your team. They can also be very small things where it's like you actually just missed a little reset, or
you don't know what to do off that wave push.
Yeah, you didn't
contested a wave you shouldn't contest.
Exactly right. You maybe you didn't shove a wave deep enough, or whatever the hell it might be.
You leaned to the wrong side off a wave. Like there's lots of little things
Little
that can
things.
happen. Yeah,
exactly right. So that's what people need to view mid game as. It's just a bunch of concepts.
One thing I see a lot where people actually it stops them from getting to this thought process is, and I've probably mentioned this on the podcast before, but people just follow what their team does, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's just one of the biggest things I see that people need to get over before they can even start having these thoughts about mid-game is like, I'm just the kind of player that if my team pings an objective, I'm just going to go hit it and play it. Or if my team pings a tower, I'll just go hit it. And that's it's actually sad, but that is a lot of people. Like, it's like genuinely probably more than half of people just have really struggled saying no in the mid-game. Because that's the thing about mid-game is you have to say no so much.
Yeah.
Some of the highest quality mid-games that I've played, and I've seen you play as well, Curtis, in my games, is you just saying no for minutes and minutes and minutes. No. And so you can say one really big yes and then win the game, right?
Yeah. Easier said than done.
As a jungler,
Very hard.
a jungler and supports, we're the ones ruining the mid-games, right?
I've
Because we're the ones that are forcing you to say no to the fights. Is this
I
correct?
think everyone ruins mid game.
I think
everyone
I'm an
does.
80 carry, man. I get caught on mid-wave all the time.
So
So
let-
80 carries bomb
let's-
mid-game.
let's
Everyone
do a-
ruins it in their own way.
Exactly. Let's go through what are the archetypal ways
that each
everyone
role
in each
ruins,
role ruins a
yeah.
game. Let's think about just our solo queue,
Oh,
right?
dude, okay. I got an example.
Let's all start with top. I want to
Yeah,
start with top.
to
Dude,
bottom,
I
okay.
literally had a Renekton.
Yeah.
Okay, a Renekton. So Renekton's champ identity is to push and group at objectives in team fight,
shove and
right?
move,
Not
yep.
split push. They can split push in some games.
Situationally.
We are. I think the game's dead even. I think actually we're even ahead a little bit in this game. Okay, this is the third dragon. The enemy team has 2 dragons. The third dragon. He pushes a top wave, and he continues to push the next wave instead of coming to the dragon.
Yep.
Bam.
Not grouping on neutrals.
End of review.
I think that's probably the biggest one for top laners as well. Just sitting in side lane and not participating in the game.
Yeah. Especially when an objective like the third dragon. This is the game.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's the game right there. See you later. Gone.
I'll say
Now
another
that
one.
dragon's whole
Another
point.
one for top lane that really rings true for me is they're pressuring at the wrong time. So like we're all like resetting.
Yeah, you're on base and they're pushing.
We're on base,
yeah,
and they're
they
like
just get
shoving up
caught.
to T2 when they just die on a T2. I'm like, mate,
you can literally
just
anticipate
wait
the death.
like
It's
10 seconds.
It's the most obvious death.
It's the most
ever.
obvious death of all time because they're so tunnel vision on the 1v1. They don't zoom out and like just chill.
Well, yeah, they don't red light, green light. They don't even look at where their teammates are, right?
So that would say they're the two big
Those are
ones.
two
for
big
top
ones,
lane.
Getting
right?
caught on side is big. I
But
agree.
because standing still and doing nothing for 10 seconds waiting in the bush, that's mind blowing to a lot of top laners. It's just mind boggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember when we were learning top, the power of like, I think I was showing you VODs where I would push side and then fog and then just like sit in the fog in between. Like that stuff is so powerful. For
Yeah,
top.
it's
That's the kind of
game
things
winning.
you guys don't see happening.
No,
because your top
that's
laners
the invisible stuff.
Exactly.
It's the
but
things
your
that
top
they
laners
don't do that win games.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right, let's go jungle.
Jungle.
Hitting
Okay.
camps,
How do junglers-
hitting their goddamn camps.
So
for 40 minutes.
So hitting camps when your team has like a way, like a pressure point, like
Yes.
it's a green light. Like my ADC and support. Just actually, I think it's more desyncing with your support and your strong members.
Being on the wrong side of the map.
Being on the
yes.
wrong side of the map,
Yes.
desyncing with your strong members.
A classic scenario I see is like I'm getting mid pushes in AD. One of my side laners are getting pushed. It's a clear opportunity to take over that quadrant, and my jungler's taking Gromp on the opposite
Yes,
side.
That's right,
I
yeah.
was gonna say that.
It's a game changer, missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people will int you at that point. Like people
They'll
will
They get
die.
very
Yeah,
angry.
The
and
They'll just
junglers
die.
or the mid
They'll just
laners or
die.
AD carries, they'll just fight in that
Yeah.
quadrant, and the jungle will just like be flamed.
That's what I see. Like, there's
Yes.
no way my team is not fighting here. It's just
That's
it's
right.
inevitable. I have to be there.
Correct.
Yeah, I have to be there. My team's got to push. They're off a fresh base. They're strong. They want to fight.
The whole concept, I think, just playing with good junglers is that they know when they need to just not do camps
Yes.
and be somewhere.
Exactly
That's
right.
just, in mid game specifically.
Yes.
That's a really, really, really big thing.
The worst thing that a jungler could do, or this is sort of, I guess, the whole team, the worst thing you can do is contest an objective that's uncontestable and not get trade something on the other side of the map. And not even just trade an objective, just trade vision and pressure. Because if you are the team that's getting the objective and the enemy can't contest it, you see them, you know that without, that means that you're both going to get the objective and you're going to get control of the whole map, the other side of the map, because you already have control of the dragon, right? Or whatever the side of the map is. You can get both. But you need to pressure the enemy to think, okay, I'm on the other side of the map. Maybe we're getting vision or pressure in there or looking to catch whoever's going to co-catch the side lane after that dragon, the solo lane or whatever. That's the worst mistake you can make because you get nothing for it. And you know, that's the worst with split pushes as well. Like if people always say, how do I deal with split pushes? You can't get them split pushing in the first place. You need to have some control of the map.
Yes.
Right? So it's too late. Once that
You
situation
can't
happens,
solve
it's
that
too late.
problem once it already exists.
Exactly
That's
right.
Stop it from emerging.
So
yeah.
and junglers have that control to stop the split pushes by being on the right side of the map to prevent them from even getting that wave to start generating that split push.
I love that. So you go
I
on.
was gonna say, just really simple. I'm just flipping objectives. I mean, people probably
Yeah,
relate to that a lot.
as a
Just
jungler.
starting objective with no smite, just burning an objective down, trying to sneak it and getting it stolen away. Like junglers can ruin games by just hitting the jungle camps at the objectives at the wrong time.
Another one is hovering the mid waves. Your ADC and support can get it safely as well. That's another one.
You think that's a mistake or
Yeah, it's a mistake from the jungler's
being on
perspective.
vision on midwave? You mean?
Yeah, showing. No, not. Yeah, showing's definitely a mistake. But I was just gonna say, just in general, just being on the next mid wave.
As a mistake.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to be on the next midwave though.
But you
No,
mean
sorry.
unnecessarily.
I mean, no, a mistake of like not being there. Sorry.
Oh, okay,
On
not
the
being
next
there.
wave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, good. Yes.
Like there's a new fresh mid wave come in. It's like, okay, we need to contest it to go get
Yep.
vision, and they hit.
Yeah, usually the
It's
midwave
same thing.
before an objective spawns. Like the
Yes.
importance of that midwave. So
Midwave.
if the jungler's off doing something else.
Yeah.
I would say the bane of my existence is from junglers is when they lock in carry junglers, they get themselves ahead at the expense of everyone else and then give their bounty. That's the bane of my existence. It's like, sure, mate, if you want to be the carry Rengar, the carry Kane, the carry Evelyn, congratulations. You deserve a pat in the back. You're 3-0, you're 4-0.
Yeah.
But don't fuck it up and just give your bounty. You know, that's okay. You haven't contributed to anyone's early lane here. You haven't helped any lanes.
No.
But if you're going to be a carry, step it up and be a carry. It's like, I don't mind playing with a Kane or a Rengar or an Eve, but just do your job, man. Play selfishly. I want you to play selfishly.
Dying invading in the mid game is something I see so often from junglers.
Yeah,
as
because they have no camp, because you start clearing camps way faster, so you have nothing.
well.
to
There's
do.
so much time to
There's
waste.
so many damn time. So
and carry junglers
That's probably
suck at doing
yes,
that.
and that's why they give their bounty.
That's
They-
right.
yeah,
Because
they try to
they're
do too
bored.
much.
They're bored.
But
They're bored,
Sejuani
yes.
is so much happier just hovering.
Yes.
Like, but no one wants to hover on a Rengar.
And it's
do they?
always the Rengar or the Kane.
Because
I swear to God.
Well, because the problem with assassin champions is because you can kill anyone technically, so you're always going to
But
be
they're not
trying to
value
kill.
their life. They never switch the
No.
mindset
Yeah.
of like, I've got a bounty. Maybe I shouldn't go for this.
Well,
kill.
they do value their life, but the problem with that I do want them to kill people, but they're not thinking about their teammmates at all. They're like going to
I swear,
commando
just hover
solo mission.
side lanes. Just go.
Yeah,
just go
that's right.
Just go side.
Well, what you need to do essentially, you need to generate pressure in one lane with a minion wave, but they go and make plays without minion waves.
Correct. They don't actually. That's a big one for everyone. Is not waiting for enemies to show on waves before doing
yeah.
stuff. Like that's just a mid game concept.
Yes.
Overall.
Yeah.
Everyone sucks.
That's
at this.
a mid game. That's a concept.
It is, yeah.
That's a concept that
Like,
people
the
don't
idea
understand.
that the reason you push waves in the mid game is to make people show on those waves, and then you can actually do things now that you see them, right?
Moving
That
on
was playing
to
jungle for ages there. There we go. It's 3 times as long
There's
as
a lot
top lane.
there.
Yeah.
Moving on to mid lane. I'm curious what you guys think about. What
Jeez,
are mid lane
mid-laners.
mistakes that you see in your solo queue?
I think overgrouping on mid wave and not like
Oh, yeah, not going to the side
not manning
lane,
up and
not
going to side. Like,
fucking
come
going to
on,
the
get in
side
the
lane.
side lane, get that pressure, get it
Yep.
pushing. Like understanding when, even if they go to side lane and die, it's a good death. Like,
No, I understand why mid laners don't do it because
terrified.
They're terrified of their team getting caught. Like
Yes.
I understand.
so
why.
empathetic towards mid laners, but
I
not,
do.
not to junglers.
Mid laners are they're pretty fine. I actually enjoy mid laners.
No,
Quite a
don't let
bit.
him get away with this shit.
No. What the narrative is this. This is the narrative that I usually have to unpack.
Yeah.
Is I'm a mage. I don't split. I can't split push.
Yeah, 'cause
I
I
can't.
can get
It's like a
killed,
very
yeah.
like
It's so rigid.
Yeah, it's so rigid.
They
It's
should
like,
call resources more. The best mid laners will go to side, they'll ping their jungler to come, they'll push
Yeah.
out the bare minimum amount of waves, and then they'll group and force.
This is literally a comment that I copy and paste in at least once a day in my coaching sessions. There is nothing more exciting for a mage
Yeah.
or just a mid lane or whatever to be hovered on
Oh,
a wave
yeah, you're
to be
right.
protected.
Yes, feels amazing.
They are going to love that because
How do you lose the game at that point?
Yeah, you can't.
You can't lose.
because then you move together through mid.
Yeah.
And then you just control the map.
And it's an opportunity for you because everyone's trying to kill mages. You
Yes.
just come and counter
Or
gank
counter
and kill.
gank,
It's
yeah.
free kills.
Yeah. Free kills.
I've done that to you millions
So
of
many
times.
times.
Billion
right?
times, correct.
It's
Another one that I've been really drilling. I wouldn't say this is like a major mistake, but it's like I would just say this for every mid laner out there. This is like a 20%, 10%er in the mid game that you can do. If you win a fight in the mid game, very simply, you either need to turn that into a major neutral objective. If you're not doing a major neutral objective, then go to a side lane and shove it out. The amount of times where I see mid lane is over group. It's like you've just won the fight. Now you can sit around here and get a little bit of extra tower damage on a mid wave or whatever. That time, if you went to the side, shoved it out, made them react instead, and then reset, you get so much more tempo. You're getting more resources, and that's how you actually keep up your mid game farm. It's those transition periods where people are not shoving out
Yeah,
waves
it's just
when
too
they can.
slow. It's like
Too
I'm watching
slow.
the game in slow
Yeah.
motion. Like,
And,
come
and,
on,
and,
man.
and that's what prevents people from being farmed in the mid
Yeah,
game.
that's right.
And tempo.
Tempo, low tempo.
Mid
plays.
laners actually don't int the mid game.
No.
They just
No.
miss opportunities.
Yeah,
Just let them
exactly.
go.
That's
right.
Irma
actually
missed
very,
opportunities.
right.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's spot on actually.
Yeah. They could pressure the game so much
Yes,
more.
they could do so much more.
But they're
Exactly.
just meandering around.
They're
like,
always low
"Oh,
farm.
you
I've
guys."
actually, it's
Yeah.
a good point. There's most of the time the AD carry is way more farm.
That's the
than
thing.
Yeah,
That's the
'cause they
first
group.
thing that I notice when I'm doing my live comms and when I just look at my gameplay. I'm like, I'm always like a lot of my games. I'm very high CS.
Yeah.
And I look at the average review. It's very very low farm. And it's not the
Yeah.
early game. It's always the mid game.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
Always
just
always
sitting
was-
mid with their AD, fighting over CS.
Soaking up
or not
experience.
saying no, or not saying no to fights.
Yes, correct.
Saying yes to everything and everything.
Yeah.
Now, AD carry. This is the most obvious one, like you said before, Charles.
Just
Yep.
caught a
Just getting
mid-wave.
caught a mid-wave.
Yeah.
Yep. Just contesting every mid wave like you feel like you deserve it.
Yep.
You don't.
What else about AD
Well,
carries?
I see AD carries is a little bit about support. Like sometimes I have empathy for AD
Yeah,
carries,
me
just like mids
too.
as well, because they get left alone and like they're like left alone to like push a wave, and they just walk in and just get killed because it's so easy to just get caught and killed, right? Like
No,
if
it's
I,
pathing. What you're seeing there
There's
is
bad
they're
pathing.
bad pathing.
Yeah, it
That's
is
actually
bad
a big
pathing.
one in the mid game
Yeah.
for AD carries. Is going the greedy way around walls.
I'm a joke. I get free kills all
Yeah,
the
you
time.
do.
This is the easiest kills
Yep.
in my life.
No, I don't think AD carries ruin games that
No,
much, to be
no.
honest, in my games.
I'm
Like, I empathize. Like, it's
Yeah.
the only one is just over shoving mid, and like that's
Yeah.
it. Trying to contest mid shove when they can't.
I think AD carries ruin tempo for items, honestly. I think that's a big one. Like, you'll often see AD carries being that guy basing at the wrong time.
Okay.
At least I see that in reviews. I don't know if you experienced that in solo queue, but if they'll be the person basing
They
10
do.
seconds before a dragon spawns.
But I say that like yeah, so that's definitely their fault. But then as a jungler, you just got to adapt and just trade off the objective and go the other side of the map.
Yeah, I kind of
It's still-
understand. I empathize. 'Cause I understand how important items.
Yeah,
are.
items are
yeah,
very
it's like-
important.
It's like if there's a guy
Sometimes
pinging
it's
IE.
good. Sometimes it's good, yes.
Like, try and fine. I'd rather let this guy get his IE. You know.
Okay. AD carries the perp. I mean, to be fair, I think that the reason there's not many mistakes for AD carry mid game is because AD carry mid game is so easy.
Very simple.
It is by far the easiest mid game out of every role.
I think it's like the same as your comment before. I think AD carries is missed opportunity. They can do more damage in fights.
Oh yeah, it's just fighting.
and they can play
100%.
lane. Like it's all about the
Having
small
the summoners
details.
available for the fights is a
Yeah.
massive.
Summoner usage is a big
Yes,
one.
yeah.
yeah. I don't really feel like they're losing games. It's like they're just underwhelming. You know, they could be doing way more. Supports.
Sitting on midwave on vision the whole fucking mid game and just like soaking XP instead
No.
of linking up with the jungler.
I would
Supports get caught, dude. In my mind, supports just get caught.
Warding.
Caught warding.
caught
They
warding,
they
that is a
ward.
big one, yeah.
They ward when they're literally like their ADC's contesting midwave or the jungler's in base or whatever. I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
the whole
sort of
thing,
the
not
same
waiting
thing.
for people to show them waves.
Yeah.
I
That's
would
right.
actually argue now that supports, back in the day, used to never roam. but now I think they over roam.
Now they do overrun.
I agree.
I think it's gone the other way around.
Yes.
I at least me, when I play AD carry secondary, it's like, cool, you're going to roam, that's fine. But then they go crazy. They
leave the ADC.
They
That's
leave
why
the AD carry for
I feel bad
ages.
for them.
And it's like, they're not, but it's not calculated roams.
No.
It's not like,
they perma roam, yeah.
it's like perma roam. It's like, that, I won't
Mindless.
see them for like 2.5 minutes or something. I'm like, where have you been, mate? You're now down 2 levels.
Yep, happens
It's like,
all the
for
time.
what? And it's like, yeah, so there's a difference. I think that's the thing with supporters. I think now we're in that meta of like, it's the quality of the roams, it's the quality of your moves, it's your ability to read the map and understand when your pressure is needed versus just like soaking XP somewhere else.
I think that there's actually 2 different categories of supports. You got the enchanter support players and the engaged support players. So the engaged support players, they're the ones that get caught warden and stuff like
Correct.
that, right?
That's exactly right.
And the enchanter ones, they actually sit mid and sit with their AD carry a lot more often than time. They'll actually be good fighting levels, but engaged supports can ruin games.
ruin
No, but the
a lot
enchanter,
more.
that brings its own problems. Like, from my perspective, I don't want my support sitting on the mid wave every
way, 'cause
single
sometimes
time.
they don't need to be.
Because oftentimes you're just in
Yeah.
stalemate where you're just clearing waves anyway. I want solo XP. I want my support warding and linking up with the jungler, you know? So I feel like both supports could meet in the middle a lot more.
Yeah, it's definitely more nuanced with that. I'm just trying to think.
I think, yeah, like you said, some supports just they overcook. They get too creative. They over gank side
Yes.
lanes.
They fall behind an experience.
No, because it's stressful. If you see the enemy support roam and make something happen, you feel pressured. It's like, I got to do something. I can't kill this AD carry, and then they overforce.
Yeah. I feel like people do have a lot of expectations of support in the mid game, though. I see this a lot in reviews where a lot of people complain about, like, we have no vision, like that whole mindset of like, we need vision, guys. It's like, well, it's a team effort to get vision.
It
really,
is.
isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
I
not your
agree.
support's fault for
No.
not having vision on the map.
Yeah, it's probably more the jungler's fault, dude, in my mind.
Yeah, again, let's just blame the jungle.
Dude, junglers, like that, we just did the exercise there. The list is huge.
It is huge.
Junglers,
We'll have a lot of impact over the game.
they have ruined. No, because
I feel like
they're the
supports
X
don't ruin
factor.
games. Supports don't really ruin
Well,
games.
yeah, I think engaged supports do. Enchanters maybe just don't do enough.
Yeah, I get
That's
it.
why I.
At the end of the day, they're just going to rock up to the fight and it's going to be fine. It's not like them dying really matters that
Yeah.
much. Unless they die before a major
I
objective.
think it's mainly just top laners and junglers. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And have you noticed a common trend with all of these? It's mostly just about being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
That's just what mid game is,
Yes.
isn't it? If you're not in the right place at the right time, you need to go back in
And
the
you-
review and find out what happened.
And you won't understand that until you understand the underlying concepts behind it.
Yeah.
So I want to move on to this one's going to be a bit of a multifaceted topic. I want to start with. Okay, we'll kind of work backwards, Nathan. We'll start with the FF post. Okay.
Okay, so you
Start with
came
this
across
one.
this Reddit post 2 days ago. It was 3.2k upvotes,
Massive.
1,000 comments.
Massive. So basically, this Reddit post, we'll pop it up on the screen here. Hopefully, Charles in the edit.
Charles
Charles
has
is
been.
getting roasted.
Well, I mean, Charles has literally missed it every time,
yeah,
dude.
yeah. So it's fine. We'll just start a riot.
Yeah,
good.
we'll start from fresh.
And
here.
has anyone complained in the comments?
Yes, I'd have.
They
seen
have
it.
seen
I
comments,
have.
yes, Charles.
My bad then. What else can I say?
Now we're just going to resort to shaming him, Charles,
Shame me.
on the podcast.
Remind me. It's not. I don't run the podcast. You guys were doing this way before I arrived.
Charles is just a,
Yeah.
a passenger.
He's a passenger. Anyway, going back into this. So basically, this Reddit post says SFF culture is going to make me quit League. I'm so sick of people spamming FF when they have a slightly problematic lane phase. Just had 4 people FF vote at 17 effing minutes in which we were only down 5 deaths. So basically, it goes into kind of talk about how frustrating it is for people to FF games, right? Now, you know, look, we've all been there where games get FF'd and you feel like you can win. But the way I want to kind of take this whole segment here is there's always another complaint. And there was, if you go back in time, not even that long ago, there was changes made to FFs because people were actually complaining that it took
Right, listen to the community.
Riot actually listened to the community and changed the FF votes where you could actually FF at 15 minutes way
Yep.
easier.
So it used to be
You have 5-0 at 15 minutes.
5-0. So
So it started off, you could only FF at 20.
Yes, that's where it
That
Only
was
started.
FF 20.
until around 2017, 2018.
and that's 4-1 still.
4-1.
Yes.
You need 4 votes, right? And then they made it so you could FF at 15 minutes, but it needs to be unanimous. You need to 5-0 it.
Yes.
And then they changed it again because people thought that was ridiculous. That you could do a 4-1 FF vote at 15. And
And
that's
this
where
is
we're at
recent. This is like a year ago, was it?
Now. Yeah,
I actually can't remember.
2 years. I
2
would
years
say.
ago.
That's where we are now.
So you can go back, any one of you You can go onto Reddit and in the similar topics of Reddit posts come up, and you can see go by year by year by year. Something like 8 years ago saying, "Oh, it's not easy enough to FF." You can literally go
People can
back.
hostage games.
Yeah,
That's
people
what-
can hostage games. I'm in these unwinnable games. You can go back and you can literally polar contrast the Reddit post after Reddit post after Reddit post based off Riot make changes. They get made. People are now upset, and then they go back on their word 24/7.
Yep.
And where I want to take this segment is trying to understand the league community. And this is something that I've been talking to Charles about this. Like, it's really plagued me. I'm like, I don't really understand. I feel like we've been in the league industry for a very long time now. And, every time I go on Reddit, I just come away bamboozled. Whether it be, the hex chess shenanigans, whether it be this shit about FF culture, whether it's about...
It's very disconnected. If you can feel very disconnected recently.
Yeah, very, very...
We feel disconnected.
We feel incredibly disconnected.
Yeah.
I feel like our communities feel very disconnected. And then you have complaints about there's too much damage. There's not enough damage. Tanks are too strong. Tanks are too weak.
AD carry is broken. AD carry is weak.
AD carry is
carry
broken.
is
Oh my
weak.
God.
You have to play mages now.
The list goes fucking on and on and on and on. And it's like, how is this possible? How can there always be a new complaint that feels as though there's been adjustments made to this? And
these are not just complaints where it's like, oh, the game sort of sucks. It's people like literally saying, I'm quitting.
I'm gonna
Like
quit.
the game's ruined.
crazy.
It's just
Yeah,
dumb.
exactly.
The culture, the FF culture is what's going to make me
they're
quit the game.
crazy claims, right?
Yeah.
And look, I'm not even going to sit here and we're not even going to comment on this. My point that I'm trying to make is that why is this the case? Why is it that League has this massive kind of, what's the word for it, Charles? Where it's like massive claims all the time about shit. There's probably a word for it, right? Where it's like a
Declaration?
Bold claims, extravagant claims.
it's like the sensational. There's a word. Anyway, whatever. My point is that why is this the case?
I failed to be in a dictionary. My bad.
My hypo. This is my claim. Everyone, listen to this Broken by Concept podcast. League is a mirror. It's a mirror that shows you and shows the communities real human nature. Now,
So you're saying here that people like to complain?
Ooh, they're always looking for an out.
Like my question to the league community here is like, what's the utopia?
well, this is the thing, right? Let's zoom out. I want to zoom out even further here. League is simply a mirror that shows you your biggest. You have your highest highs. You'll have your greatest moments. You will see some of your best traits, but then it'll also show you your worst qualities.
League can bring out the best and worst.
It can bring out the best and worst in humanity. You got people that will go to extreme lengths of toxicity,
Yeah.
and degenerate behavior. But it also can bring out some of your happiest, most proudest, most satisfied, most content feelings in your
Playing
life.
with friends,
playing with
winning-
friends and community,
Flow state.
competing,
flow state.
winning games.
You can have so
Growth
Improving.
mindset.
developing
Yep.
growth. You can have all these positive things and all these negative things. And me reflecting on this for a long time now is I've come to the conclusion that the way we see the league community act on Reddit is just a little microbiome of what the real human, like what society is. And basically whether you are complaining about the government, you're complaining about your neighbor, you're complaining about these things that are happening around you, the first question I always have is that, have you done everything in your power individually to make changes in your own life rather than quickly getting the convenient, excuse that's out of your grasp? Because it feels good to complain about shit that's out of your control, right?
It does, dude. This is actually what you're talking about. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but it mirrors like any sort of like, I've had a bunch of jobs, right? Like little like retail jobs, like dead end jobs. Like it 100% mirrors that because everyone just complains about the company. That's the culture in those places. You complain about the company, you complain about the boss, you complain about the state of things that you have absolutely no power to control.
You're talking about the employees.
The employees at the company, like me and the other employees, would complain about the company, and that's just how it works. And that's what people do with League as well.
They do it with League because this is the thing, is that League faces you with all these challenges and problems. And I'm not sitting here I'm not saying that Riot is perfect. There's ways they can make the game better, right? My point being is that it's very convenient to blame Riot for all of these things when they're actually you're massively contributing to these problems individually, and there's things that are in your control that you should focus on first before complaining about it. If you look at the profile, this guy's profile who made this post, right? I guarantee you he's probably spamming games, has no champ mastery. Like, he's probably FFing in games as well where the other games are winnable. He's probably the culprit in other person's games. There's probably a complete lack of accountability. I could basically guarantee you, because every time we've done these and you ask for their OPGs and you look at their gameplay, every time, whether it's the 40k gold game guy or whether it's fucking Nice or anyone, it's the same shit. It's blame externals. That's
actually got nothing really to do with the actual problems with your gameplay or why you're not enjoying the game.
And why you're not enjoying the game. It's just you're choosing to focus on the things that are convenient for you to make you feel better about yourself. It's an inherent defense mechanism. And this is in life, right? Think about it. Someone like you make a mistake on the road and like you pull in front of someone, they beep you and you get angry at them. Because that's your default response. You're just getting, it feels good to project and get angry and not take accountability and responsibility. And it's not until way later on, you're like, you know what, I probably fucking deserve getting beeped there. And so what League is, it's a tool for personal development and growth. Just like life, you can choose to take accountability and grow as an individual and grow as a person and use all of these experiences as a tool to get better and become 1% better at an individual level every single day. Or you can just sit there and completely blame externals 24/7. The interest rates are too high. The tax bracket's fucked. My neighbors are doing this. It's like, sure, then maybe there's some truth there, right?
Yeah. But his solution, Curtis, is to duo.
Yeah,
that's
funny.
the solution.
That's awesome.
And then the equivalent of that in real life is like, let's just fucking invest in some, get rich quick scheme. Let's invest in crypto or
a cheat,
it's a hack or a cheat, right? And a get quick rich scheme, and they don't work. They fail, and then you're worse off in the long run. Right, join some fucking multi-level marketing,
MLM or something.
MLM or something.
Yeah.
Or just get a personal loan or something.
Or get a loan.
Screw it.
Or just sit there and rot.
Yeah.
And just blame externals. So I'm not.
Don't try. That's actually the default response. It's like when it's hard,
just don't try.
Try less when it's hard, not more.
So like this obviously comes across, and then people are going to be very salty and potentially and come across. This is not some elitist fucking talk show. We're up on the hill saying we're the best. We know how to live life. It's like not at all. I'm just saying my observation about society and specifically the League community is that you can't make sense of the League's response to any of these things because they're nonsensical. They're not based in logic. These complaints aren't coming from people that are actually taking accountability at an individual level and really holding themselves to a high standard, then critiquing the system. You can't critique the system before working on yourself first. It doesn't work like that because you won't be able to see the truth of the situation.
Yeah, it's like working on yourself, but also understanding the system as well.
Yes.
Like he doesn't understand, this guy doesn't understand the game.
No.
Exactly right. And on top of that, let's talk about the Hex Chest for 1 second. Mate, League's a free game, and this is going to piss a lot of people off. League's a free game. You have the best rank system in the world. You have all the champions. Everything's free. There's no pay to win. And people are upset that they don't get a few free skins for some chests. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people? And that's gonna
chests are new as well. When did chests actually come out?
Like, we're gonna get roasted here, but get off your high horse, guys. Maybe Riot. Maybe they should never have given them in the first place. But grow up. They gave you a toy and they've taken it away. Okay, they're trying to grow their company and they're trying to be very profitable. Maybe they make a lot of money, but it's good if they make a lot of money because they're probably going to reinvest in the game and make more shit. And I'm not condoning, yes, they have shit skins and they need to pick up the ball on that. I think people calling them out for their shit quality skins is understandable. But taking away the Hex chests just never made sense. Like, okay, I get that, man. Like, you should have to pay for skins. That's the way the game should work. So I just... Again, that's my 2 cents. I don't play the game for skins, whatever. But, like, my point that I'm trying to make is that, like... It's
just another distraction.
It's just a distraction.
Yeah, it's just another distraction.
And don't take Reddit too seriously. Like, I think people look at, oh my God, League's gonna die. Look at the League Reddit. It's everyone's having such a bad time. It's like, these people We're always going to have a bad time. It does. Even if League had the most balance, everything was fucking free, they had all the skins in the world, there was duo queue, there was voice comms, they would find another thing to complain about.
It'll be the next big
What's the
thread.
next thing? It's like, oh, League's just too toxic because there's voice chat now and everyone has a skin and I can't see their animations anymore. There's always going to be something.
Too many chests, yeah.
There's too many chests. I don't know, whatever the fuck it is, there's going to be something else. It never ends.
Yeah, like my skin doesn't feel special because
there's
everyone
I
has it.
paid $200.
It is inflation. The skins are worth less now because there's so many of them.
Yeah, exactly right. You're never going to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
So, like, you guys don't get caught up in this. And people make content sensationalizing this stuff on YouTube. You get clicks and you get sucked up in this system really quickly. People think it's all doom and gloom. But, like, League's a great game, guys. Don't get influenced by these people.
Yeah.
That's my rant. All right, that was my rant over. And honestly, last thing to summarize this whole thing, if you actually pay attention to the way you conduct yourself on the Rift and your process and your relationship with the game, you will see parallels in your real life. Nathan,
We've seen that from our students.
Yeah.
Charlie, and myself, all of us, the way we actually conduct ourselves in our solo queue journey actually mimic many of our behaviors at an IRL perspective. I'll use Nathan as a case study here for a second. Nathan is like the long-term grinder, and has his own unique view of the game. That's how he lives his life.
Yeah.
Nathan's the exact same. The way he can, just by not even realizing it, you conduct yourself on the Rift and your League process identical to the way you live your life. Now, I would pose a question to you guys listening to this podcast. Think about the way you conduct yourself on the Rift and then actually reflect on the way you're conducting your life. Have a think about that for a second and see what parallels you can draw. And I guarantee you'll be able to notice some. And this is one of my whole point, that League is a mirror. And these people making these Reddit posts, if they were to look at it through that lens, I'd be like, you know what? I'm complaining about ranked and all this, whatever the shit is. If I turn that back around and look at my real life, oh yeah, there are actually a lot of parallels here. That's my point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, and again, we've seen it with the people that write into us and our students, where they actually find that when they start cleaning up with their attitudes, their mindset towards real life, they start getting results in League, and then both ways, just like you're saying that League's a mirror.
Exactly right.
All right, let's move on here to we're going to talk about counter picks now. Not understanding the counter pick, Curtis. This was a topic that you wrote. Charles was really excited about this. Charles is really passionate about counter picks.
So Charles, why don't you start this one?
I mean, what was your contention?
Okay,
I think you started off by saying you don't think people understand it.
Okay,
I just had a take on it.
And you had a 20-minute discussion with one of your students.
Yeah, so I had
today
about a 20, 25-minute discussion this
from?
morning about basically having to explain why getting counterpicked is not that big of a deal and how it's part of the League journey.
Yeah.
And why champ mastery matters more than getting counterpicked. And but actually breaking down why.
Yeah, I agree with this. I agree with the why as well, because I'm not sure what you're about to say, but I assume the idea is that counterpicking in a specific matchup doesn't really matter. If you're so good at your champion, you can overcome a matchup. What matters more is how good your champion is in that given game overall. Like that kind of counterpick, I think is actually important in the sense that you can still win hard games in the mid game, but if your champion can deal damage and stay alive and actually conduct itself, then the matchup becomes irrelevant. And that's where champ mastery is really important because it allows you to navigate those shitty matchups.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. I wasn't going to take it there, but that's absolutely spot on. I think that's what a lot of people forget.
Yeah.
I was going to also say that you got to remember, if you get counterpicked in draft, you can't automatically assume that that person knows how to play that champion holistically. They might take a few good trades in you in lane, but are they going to know how to kill the Nexus? Are they going to know how to really play their mid game properly? Are they even going to have the mental capacity to make game decisions? Because what if someone like first times this mega counterpick into me? It's like, yeah, they might have some good trades into you. They might be able to hold their own. But
what about the mid game?
What about the mid game? What about the team fights? What about they're not going to even have the mental. They're probably going to die to ganks.
I see this a lot from a draft perspective because I'm a jungler and I trade picks a lot. Like I'm always first pick and I'll trade with my top lane, whatever. So I see the people doing the counter picks on my team and I watch how the game plays out. And just like you were saying, what I will see is that the early game is fine and stuff, but once it starts getting into the mid-game more complicated problems and they're interacting with the other four members who their champ might actually not even be that good in, then it just all falls apart really quick.
And there's nothing you take away from that game because you're not going to play the champ in ages anyway.
I've done this before in my League journey, and nothing leaves you with a more hollow feeling than picking something one time for a draft and then just like playing badly and losing. Because it's like just
The
wasted
worst.
time. It's a good learning, just not to do it again. It's like, what do we learn? We learn not to do it again. But apart from that, there's not much to learn from it, right?
But this is the thing as well you got to understand, because I remember I showed this VOD of me playing versus like Cassie versus Wei, which is like not an easy matchup. And I was showing this client, I'm like, here I win this lane, or I take some good trades. Now, if it was all about the matchup, then this wouldn't be possible. How is this possible, right? And then he's like, well, you're just outplaying them, right? And I said, okay. Well, I'm only able to outplay them because I have the mental capacity, because I've actually been able to improve at a player level because I don't have to think about my champion anymore. So it's actually a prerequisite to get better at the game holistically of League. You need to have champ mastery. That's the way it works. You remember in League, guys, you're only doing one or two things. You're learning champ specifics, you're trying to get better at the champion, or you're trying to get better at the game.
A good thought exercise is like, consider you're about to play a League game for $1 million. Would you rather be playing your best champion in like a mediocre setting, or would you rather first time a champ for $1 million? No one's gonna first time a champ in a counter pick. Rather, would you rather counter pick someone with a champion you don't know how to play? So you want to go for comfort, right? If you really want to win that game and get learning.
Exactly right. So I just think that what people are thinking about, they think, oh, I hate the feeling of getting counterpicked. I feel like they're at an advantage. But like your mindset should be, okay, well, I know my champion very, very, very well. I'm going to have an expanded mental stack. I can think about the game holistically. And even if I do struggle in the lane, I'm going to be able to do things in mid game because I just know my champ so fucking well.
You can always minimize. Like, what do people think when they get counterpicked? Like, they instantly go on 0-4.
But this is what they think.
Well, people actually play the game that way subconsciously. Right?
No, but this is what they actually think. They think that the person that's counterpicking them, they're like, oh, but what if that person has a shit ton of mastery on that counterpick? And I'm like, then you just suck it up and you might just lose that game. If that's it, you know what I mean? They're trying to solve puzzles.
Yeah, you're trying to solve to win every 100%.
You're not going to get 100% win rate. You are sometimes going to be in a shit game where the stars align. You're like let's say you're a, you play a champion and they had like the perfect counter pick and they one trick that champion. Okay, you just lose.
Draft is also balanced, guys. Like, there's a reason we pick it in order. There's red and blue side. Your team has some counter picks. The enemies team has some counter picks. That's how it works.
But yeah, exactly right. So even if you get counter pick, someone else in your team is going to counter pick. But sometimes stars align for the enemy. They're all in the right champs.
Yeah,
your comms dog shit, and you just lose.
You lose.
You just fucking lose. You just like move on. You know what I mean? It's like you don't
direct your attention elsewhere.
Exactly right. And I think that's the tough pill to swallow. Is that yes, 1 in every 20 games that's going to happen.
Yep.
Okay. That's part of the League experience. Suck it up.
And it's just this whole mindset of champ mastery, again, that we just preach on this podcast all the time. It's not even just about the specific results. It's the mindset of going into that game, going 1-0-3, and your team FFs a 15 because of the team gap. Like that's you know how many times that's happened to me? And it's just, cool, move on to the next one. It's just done.
Yep.
Like, I'm playing Rek'Sai into, like, cupcakes like Renata, and, like, it's like Renata, Varus, and, like, a Ari mid or whatever, and it's like, I don't get my early lead or whatever, and my team all had counter picks, but for some reason my support picked Nautilus into the Renata or whatever. It's just the reality,
It's just the reality. It's just the way that
I've been there. I've had a game, I remember versus you, I played Xayah, and you played Seraphine or something, and I'm versing like a full range comp, and I'm playing Xayah. I'm like, all right, well... Yeah, just get me out of this one.
But that's where understanding how champ mastery matters for the sense of managing expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on Xayah that game.
confused.
You're not scratching your head.
Yeah.
Why was this game so hard? Why couldn't I carry? It's like, dude, my champ just sucks at this game.
Yes.
That's just the way it is. You don't overcomplicate.
And part of the champ mastery process, I'm a big believer in this, you have to learn how to play those hard comps.
Yes.
I'm not even saying you can lose. You can actually win those games.
Yes,
you know?
it's not 0% chance. I've got it all. No
But you could learn some really good things as well. It's like how to fight against some of these champs, like what cooldowns to play around and stuff like that.
And sometimes it can really surprise you. Your expectations can be really shattered. Like, I remember vividly another game where I was playing Jinx, and I had like no peel on my team, and I was versing like Vi Ari or something, and I played the whole game, and the Vi never ulted me. It was the weirdest. I ended the game with 0 deaths. Like, think about that. You're loading into a game as Jinx. I always see 80 carries freak out. Like, I'm playing an immobile 80 carry. They have so many assassins.
Were you trying to not get ulted though?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I was just like trying to like play the game with chicken, make her ult someone else before walking up. Like,
So that's skill right
like,
there. You're
I'm
talking
trying
about.
to not contest waves. Like, again, people freak out about threat a lot with draft. Like, I'm playing in immobile, and they have like 5 assassins, and they don't know how to play. But like, you can win those games.
Yeah,
it
you
just
can-
requires a lot of discipline.
You can use that to your advantage as well, because think about it from the Vi and Ari's perspective.
Yeah.
They're going to be thinking in a very rigid way, let's kill Jinx.
Yes.
But if you don't give them that opportunity in that fight, they explode.
They do.
They actually won't know what to do.
They won't hold their skills for long enough. They'll blow them on someone
Yes.
else, and then you can come
They'll
out
get
and, like,
bored.
win. Yeah,
That's
exactly
right. But,
yeah.
So as long as you don't give them that, it's actually an advantage in those type of situations. Some of the best AD carries, that I play against that do that, and the game's so hard, and it should be on paper very binary. We should just win the game.
Yep.
But it's not. The league is not that simple.
No, it's not. There's ways you can get out of it, and the reality is League is way more messy than like you have counter pick, you lose. The
Yeah,
game.
again,
it's not like that.
People just think it's like comp, smash together,
Yeah.
and then whoever wins auto wins the game.
Yeah.
That's how people think that league is.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. All right, school post time. So our school post selection here comes from Johnny. Now, Johnny is a long-time Top Lane Academy member.
Yep.
Shout out to Johnny.
Shout
He's
out to
been
Johnny.
a very
Day one from Top Lane Academy.
day one. Yep, very involved, inspirational community
Help us
member.
build the product.
Yes, he did. We've learned a lot from Johnny. All right, so Johnny here says, the title of this school post is Notice Your Good Luck, a Useful Mindset. One mindset for today. Notice the times you have good luck in games too. We are very good at noticing when we have bad luck in games. Int in bot lane, jungler griefed, enemy lived with 1 HP, etc. We tend to ignore or overlook when we have a good luck game though, which can cause an incorrect perception of how often we get unlucky. By practicing noticing good luck too, we can have a healthier perspective about the game and more balanced understanding of the variance in your games. The main red flag you should look for is if you think the game is ultimately unfair. A lot of people perceive that all their good outcomes are due to their skill, but the bad outcomes are due to only to bad luck.
Yeah.
The reality is that some good outcomes are not only due to skill, but can also be due to good luck. And similarly, bad outcomes can be due to your own mistakes and not only bad luck. What this means is that people can have an inflated sense of their skill, being delusional about how often they get screwed by bad luck. Learning to recognize good luck as well can help you achieve a more realistic sense of your skill level and thus manage your expectations better. This can avoid a lot of frustration and disappointment in your journey.
So it's a great post.
Agreed.
Awesome stuff. And this is...
Got to stay grounded. Got to stay grounded in your level of play.
Humans are wired to highlight and focus on negative more than the positive. It's easier to do. And
Ego protection.
There's so many elements psychologically that comes into play here. And this is really important for improvement mindset as well, because when you know, just like talking about team comp before there, when you've got a champion that's really good into, like, the draft just perfectly aligns. Like, you guys are all on your sort of one. The game's super easy. And you pat yourself on your back. You think, oh, I'm so good. I go 15-0 this game. And this is like goes to the inconsistency conversation that people come up with, saying they're an inconsistent player. They go 15-0 in the good luck game. Then they have, it's not even the bad luck game next. They just have a game that they're just playing at their skill level. And then bam, suddenly they're like, oh, I'm inconsistent.
Because this sort of ties into the whole conversation about people are not thinking about how they win or lose a game.
No.
It's about if they win or lose.
Yeah, because they see the LP, they click off the screen, they queue up, they go into the next one.
And
Exactly
they assume that because they won, they must have played well.
And
Correct.
this is the thing. It's like, I like it when people get excited about they're starting to get results and things clicking.
Of course.
But I don't know if the person is
Yes.
factoring in
Yes.
the quality of these games. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm happy if, like, I don't care if you win 6 in a row, but I care about how did you conduct yourself in those 6 games? What did you learn from these 6 games? So, it's kind of, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I kind of like it that they're celebrating that things are clicking, but I don't know if it's in good faith or
Because
not.
you don't want to go down. This could be toxic in the extreme mindset where you're just criticizing your gameplay all the time,
Yeah.
and you're not a challenger
There's another
player,
side
and you're
of
like,
it.
oh, I'm just getting lucky all the time. I just suck at the game. So
I see that. I literally seen that. And I
People
had
got
a
beat down.
review this morning. This is super fascinating, guys, by the way. This guy comes in, he says, Curtis, my laning is just so bad. Like, I'm just the worst laner. I'm just winning all my games in mid-game, right? And I go into this game, and I'm like, this lane's pretty good.
Yeah.
And he had this great
Yeah.
lane, right? And I'm like, okay, well, let's take a look at your OPG. And we get into the specifics, and I'm like, well, you're good in the lanes into the matchups that you understand, and you're not performing well in the matchups that you don't understand, right?
Yep.
So you got the ones where you're versing Rise here that you brought, you went 8-0, congratulations, you did a great job because you know the matchup. But then the one here where you're versing Echo, or you're versing Yasuo, or you're versing LeBlanc, you don't know the matchup very well, and you're struggling. That doesn't mean your laning is bad. That means your matchup understanding specifically is bad. And the way that if you have poor matchup understanding, that can manifest in a way where it looks as if like your laning holistically is bad, but it's just because you don't know the matchup. And so like this guy had basically drawn this massive conclusion. Oh, my laning is just terrible. That's the reason I'm losing games. It's like my fundamentals, my trading. I'm like, we got to get specific. So he had this whole narrative, this whole belief. I'm like, you have no problems with your fundamentals. Your accuracy, micro, everything's good. You just don't know your some matchups, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like we make this massive event out of things, and it's like, just your matchup understanding, man.
That's why reviewing wins is so good as well. I had a really good review the other day as well with Samira guy, Nico. He brought a VOD to me and he basically said like, I just want to know how to do this again. Those sort of VODs. He's like, I think I played well this game. Let's just double check. Like he was open to the idea that maybe I just messed up and got lucky. Who knows? Let's go and find out. And if I did do well, how do I do that again? Like that's a really good result. And like, don't be afraid of just reviewing your wins. Like you should do the double check, right? Make sure it actually was replicable.
I always say some of the best reviews that I've done is from reviewing someone's wins. Like they're really good because I mean I think sometimes people are just bad at bringing certain VODs, and the really bad losses are so easy to bring.
Yep.
It's so easy to bring those as review sessions. It's like, how do I figure this out? This game felt
like
hopeless.
3 losing lanes.
Yeah, it's like, well, dude, you know, it's like this is not a really good example of what actually your whole journey.
That is probably one of the hardest.
Like.
That's actually one of the I think our clients' biggest like struggle points. Is how to bring in a VOD.
Yeah,
like that. That's something that we never knew was difficult, but it actually is
so difficult.
It's actually kind of hard.
Yeah. Yeah, how do you choose which game to bring? It's crazy.
Well, it's a skill that they have to develop iteratively, I feel like. I think there's nothing that we can write in some documentation.
Well, I mean, we've got so much documentation about
it doesn't work. It's like they have to just bring one and we'll say this is shit and this is a good VOD, this is what you should, and that's it. It's just painful experience.
Yeah, find out where you get the most like learning, I guess.
There's no way around.
Well, it also helps them focus on, okay, what's not you should be focusing on.
But remember, we always get information by the fact that they're bringing that VOD. That gives us as a coach a pretty good, bit of information.
Just like that example there, the guy's saying he's got a bad lane phase. You review the VOD, the lane phase was fine.
But I was able to think about that. The only reason I was able to come to that conclusion though is because I heard what he said about like, I think my laning is shit. I'm like, mate, your laning's fine. And I stopped the review when he was like 3-0. I'm like, okay, let's not go into the mid game.
Yep.
What's going on here? And we just spoke about his journey holistically. Which is interesting.
All right, well, thanks, Johnny, for the advice.
Post.
The wise words of Johnny the Wise.
Johnny the Wise.
Johnny the White.
That should be his league name.
Johnny the Great. Wise. Well, Johnny's bold, I think. So Johnny the Bold.
Mate.
What the hell?
Come on, mate.
What the hell?
He's got a beard though, dude.
Johnny, come on, mate. This is who you're supporting.
Dude, Johnny, I love Johnny, okay? He's one of our good community members.
Johnny the Bold.
All right. We're moving on here.
That is disgraceful.
Mailbag time. Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's Mailbag. Jingle, jingle, jingle song. Alrighty then. Our first question here comes from Chris. The title of his email is, can champion mastery be unlearned and relearned? Is that meant to say relearned or relearned?
Again, I'm being just throwing stuff at me. Relearned or relearned? I believe both are correct.
Okay. Dear Coach Curtis, Nathan, and maybe Cupcake.
I am not Cupcake, believe it or not. We both are in Bot Lane Academy, but I'm the other one. I'm the less handsome one.
The other one that starts with C.
Correct. I'm the less fit one.
The one that can't play tennis as well.
No, nowhere near as good as tennis.
Ever since Ludwig shouted you guys out in a YouTube video, I've been listening to your podcast and it has been super insightful and really changed my mentality of League being a bad game.
Thank God.
Yeah, at least we got one.
One at a time. Join us. Tell your mates. Come on. Jump the fence.
That's what we do. We just chip by people one at a time.
Yeah,
that's what
good.
we do. You guys have inspired me to set a goal of playing ranked for a whole year using the 3-block process and see how far I can go. For some background, I've been playing since Season 8, but I've always been one of those players that hit a peak then stops playing. Now comes my biggest problem. I feel like I play the champ I have put years into fundamentally wrong. At the very beginning, after the first time playing Draven, I knew he was the one. I've spent years practicing Draven knowing that he is a one-trick champ and hoping to one day be a high elo 1v9 carry every game Draven player. The issue is I feel like I play way too passive on Draven. One of your episodes you have talked about the scariest Draven is the 2 kills 0 deaths. But in practice I feel like because I don't play super aggro in lane, I can't push my lead and lose games. It has really hit hard this season as I usually have a positive win rate. But as of writing this, I'm at a 42% win rate overall and 45% on Draven. The breaking point was when I played against a Smurf Masters player, Draven, and added him after and talked about it. He was nice and agreed that Draven's champion goals are due to being a lane bully, and if you're playing passive, it's just playing at a huge disadvantage with the champion. As of now, I've been thinking about swapping mains. I have been champ pool cycling with Jinx, and she's a more passive ADC, which hypothetically fits my playstyle. My biggest question would be, can the years of playing a champ wrongly be unlearned and reprogrammed? Should I play the champ that fits my playstyle, or is it possible to unlearn a playstyle and then relearn it? Draven is a big reason I play League, but it sets me back in my long-term goal. Then I am willing to set him aside. Here is my PGG. I'm attempting this challenge but my mastery is way higher, split between accounts because of my past ranked anxiety. I'm not an average toxic Draven OTP. I've never been banned, just play scared to play ranked on my main. My prediction of what you guys will tell me is that it might not be a Draven problem, but a confidence carrying closing out games issue. Mechanically, I'm confident in my Draven, but it could be a macro issue and I just need to throw more games at the wall. With that being said, my goal now is to stick to the 3 block, find my end of review plays in the game, in the review, and focusing on improving myself in one aspect instead of gaining LP. If you read this, thank you for all the hard work you have done, and I'm sure many people feel the same when I say that you have flipped my view not only on League but life. Hopefully one day League won't have such a heavy negative connotation and people will see it like the fun competitive video games you guys prove it to be.
Alrighty.
So you have experience working with some Draven players, Charles.
Yeah, this is great because I have an opportunity to kind of defend myself on my Draven take because people...
Wait, should we just start high level first?
Okay.
I'm going to get Curtis's take here. Can Champion Mastery be unlearned, then relearned? Have you had students where they're so deep in the hole around, they built this really bad muscle memory with a champion that it's just done. It's a lost cause.
At least in my experience, working with clients who are in similar situations, it's very hard.
I think it's very hard.
Very, very, very hard. It has been done. It is doable, but it is not really what I would recommend. My 2 cents on the matter, at a high level, I think you should do some champion cycling, experiment with differing 80 carries, and then come back way later on. And even then it will still be difficult, but I just think that, it's just a tough pill to swallow. Sometimes, you do kind of ruin your relationship with the champion for a long time, but it can be, I would rather you come back later on, maybe like end of the year, next year, something like that. I think would be a very good way.
It's sort of like, I guess, this is probably an extreme example. This is the classic Nathan White example we are.
There we go.
It's like a relationship that's broken down. And you have to do the marriage counseling therapy, right? You can fix it, but it takes a lot of work. Is this a good analogy?
Wouldn't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't know either, but that's what I've seen for the movies and the TV shows.
Mate, you're not even in a relationship.
No.
Okay, so that stops there. All right, so we...
Back to Draven, back to League of Legends, back to reality.
Okay, yeah, so that's my experience as well, Curtis. Not with the whole relationship thing.
Yeah, it's hard. I think what you can do to get a bit more specific is
it's hard.
You want to cycle through champions, ideally, that align with the playstyle you want. I think your mindset of I'm just going to play passive champions because I'm passive is a bit of a cop-out.
Yeah,
unfortunately, there is no such thing as a passive AD carry.
No.
You can be a beast Jinx in winning matchups, and you need to be a scaling Jinx in losing matchups. You have to get into the details, find out which matchups you dominate, which matchups you don't. That's just the reality of being a good Jinx player, and that's the reality of being a good AD carrier in general, right? So you can't get out of this by just playing to scale, mate. You're not gonna work. It's not gonna work. There's no AD carry that's gotten results just sitting there farming the minions and hoping for the best. That's not how you play the game.
So yeah, so he's platinum 4.
But I want to kind of just step in there a little bit. So typically when I see these emails, when you hear the term, Charlie,
Yeah.
like, I want to play a slow scaling AD carry or whatever, you got to read between the lines. Like, what do they actually mean by that? And I think that what he's probably trying to articulate is, I don't really enjoy playing AD carries that are early lane centric. So, like, again, let's say everything's on a scale, right? There is no such thing, like you said, as an AD carry that doesn't do anything in lane. You know, every AD carry has to learn how to trade, and there are going to be matchups that are hard, there are going to be matchups that are easy, right?
Even Zeri.
Even Zeri, right?
Yes.
Exactly right. And in sometimes, as Callista or something, you may not be able to do that much just because of the way the game pans out,
100%.
right?
If you play Callista into, like, I don't know, Ash Braum or something, you're going to lose, and you're going to have to chill.
But in saying that, there are champions that are, you know, at differing places on the spectrum of where is their champion identity? What is it geared towards?
Yeah,
right.
100%.
You would say a Callista is probably a more lane centric, or like Draven probably a little bit more lane centric than something like a Zeri, right, or a Sivir.
Yes.
They're all on a scale. So if you feel as though the way you prefer to play AD carry is maybe less so in the early game, and you really want to be that kind of 3 item spiking AD carry, there are AD carries that are geared towards that. That doesn't mean you're not going to have to trade. You're still going to have to learn trading. It's just going to be...
It's lower down the totem pole on the list of things you need to win a
Exactly
game.
right.
Exactly
right.
You're
So
correct.
I just think it's important just to really get specific there.
Yeah, no, you're right, and yes, you can play Jinx and be pretty trade avoidant a lot of the time. It's just you can't get out of the fact that you're going to be laning in the game, right? But yeah, on the Draven topic, to get specific there, I guess you need to ask yourself, like, why do you enjoy Draven as well, and what aspects of Draven do you maybe want to look for in other champions? Is it the fact that he's auto attack reliant? Is it the fact that he likes kiting and the idea of that glide playstyle? Like, I just want to be like that beast who's like dancing around the fights, moving really quickly. So yeah, maybe Jinx would be great for that. Maybe it is the fact that you win a lot of trades in lane. I don't know. I hope I haven't misled you with the Draven stuff about the 2-0 Draven. The reason
People got really angry about that short, by the way.
They did. And the reason I wanted to promote that is mostly because, like...
It's just to recenter people, because everyone's in the extreme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a correction.
It's a
Most
correction.
Dravens are 14 kills, 10 deaths. I'm just trying to drive them back to the middle a little bit.
Yes.
I have worked with Dravens who are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Logan is a Draven in the bot lane academy who was like this guy. Very, very, very slow Draven player. Very calm, 0-0 games, missing opportunities left and right. So now we're working on building him back up, and it is working. We're having a lot of great progress there. So it is possible, but I don't know how... he's played Draven for many years, right? How many of those years have you been playing quote-unquote passive? Like, that would also dictate how hard it's going to be to...
Sounds like it's been a long time.
If it's the whole time, then you're probably, like, screwed for the time being.
Toast.
Yeah, you're burnt toast. Try something else. Shout out to one champion that I might recommend here is actually Ashe. Ashe has a lot of overlap with Draven. You're very strong level 1. You have a great laning phase. You win extended trades, which is something where Draven thrives. He doesn't like the short trading too much. He loves extended trades. And yeah, he likes to snowball the early game. So definitely recommend Ashe as like a middle ground between scaling and kiting, but also having a strong early game. I think it'd be a good one.
That's an interesting recommendation. Yeah. All right. Let's move on here now to... what was my next one? My next one was... here we go. This one here comes from Wix. Not a mailbag question, but a thanks. Hello, Coach Nathan and Coach Curtis.
What is with the clicks this episode?
I'm a recent viewer to Broken by Concept, only engaging with the podcast after seeing the Ludwig episode blow up. We got another Ludwig person. Despite only being here recently, this podcast has shifted my mentality and improved my outlook on the game a lot. Going down to the details... The terminology is getting into the details. Like going down.
Going down is that we're in Australia, so you have to go down to the details.
That's true.
We get into the details. Other people have to come down.
Yeah,
to
we're
the
already
details.
you're already down here.
We're here,
so we just get into the details.
We're already in the detail.
Correct.
Playing around blocks of 3 and quitting after 3 losses. Focusing on myself and understanding how my mistakes impact the game, even if small, have been tremendous for me. I may not always follow these rules, but from previous seasons, I've made massive growth. At the end of last split, I lost streak to Platinum 3. I was devastated after being Emerald for multiple splits. It felt like I had completely fallen off. Around then, I started listening to your podcast, and it opened my eyes to a multitude of simple mistakes I was making. Namely, playing champions I wasn't particularly comfortable with, tilt queuing out of my mind, and a few 20%ers I wasn't aware of. So this year, I want to change that, and hit my goal of Diamond. I've been close a few times in the past, peaking at Emerald 1 and Plat 2 before Emerald existed, but I never actually reached it. This changed this year, and miraculously, with frankly some incredible luck, I went through Diamond in 1.5 weeks to Masters.
Whoa.
For the first time ever as well, even despite my goal already being reached. This podcast has made me realize I still have much to improve on and to stay curious and become detail-oriented in my play. Just wanted to say thanks, as I truly believe without the guidance the podcast has provided me, I wouldn't have hit my goal. This is my OPGG, if he's curious. And yeah, he's hit Master.
Wixinator.
250 games, 60% win rate with what champions? Aurora and
Aurora.
Victor. Victor 70% win
So
rate.
the pool is Aurora, Victor,
And
Syndra.
and Oriana, dude. Because this is your
A man of your heart,
Yeah,
Curtis.
this is your mid laner, dude. Oh, he's got 120 games on Aurora, so mainly I played Aurora.
Yeah, Rora's not an easy champ either. Yeah, it's amazing. I love seeing these. You know, it's good. Again, we're chipping away. We're spreading the word one by one.
Ludwig's spreading the word.
Yeah, we're converting them
Yeah.
one by one.
Ludwig's funneling them in, and we're like a machine.
We're a machine. Yep. No, I love it. Really, really awesome to see these, and it, you know, it's important that you're really proud. You recognize all the work that you've put in, and you know it's easy to look past it. So really make sure you give yourself a pat in the back and recognize this, because it's not easy, man, and it's not easy, and it's a pretty remarkable achievement. So yeah, I appreciate you writing in.
I like how Wix here said the getting into the details, playing the 3 blocks, focusing on myself, understanding how my mistakes impact the game. He called them rules. They're more like guidelines. It's like he literally thinks it's like the gospel.
Yeah.
It's like the rules. You have
Well,
to do.
it is kind of good at the start. If you were
It's
on
like
the other
what is
side,
it?
right?
The 7 sins in the Bible, whatever it is. It's like
The 10 Commandments.
The
Yeah.
10 Commandments. Sorry.
No, but if you
I'm
think
thinking
about
The 7 deadly sins.
But if you think about it, right? Like imagine you're on the other side of things where you're blaming teammates, you're doing say the complete opposite. It kind of is good to, in the short term, treat them like rules.
Yeah, it's good.
Right? As a starting point. Obviously they're not rules and you want to break them every now and then, but it is good, at least at the start.
Yeah. And another one here, he said he was playing champions I wasn't particularly comfortable with. That goes back to the counter picking. I assume that he was counter picking. He's trying to counter pick your way.
He's just all in on his identity.
Yeah.
I love that. I love seeing an account which gets results and you just see 3 champions
Yes.
with like way more games than everything else. It
Yes.
just makes sense. It's like, yeah.
Instead of the
Good stuff.
the KFC variety bucket.
Yep.
Going back to our 12 herbs and spices from the beginning of this episode of mid-game fundamentals. I don't know where I was going with that. What was I
Just
trying to
loves KFC.
We need to get
We
KFC.
need to get a sponsor.
We actually-
We need a sponsor.
Or just eat KFC.
No, well, let's get sponsored by
No, we
them.
did have a KFC sponsor. Not on BBC, but back in the day in
Direwolves.
Direwolves.
That was not a sponsor.
That
Curtis.
was, Nathan. It was a little one.
Oh, we got sponsored. Okay, Charles, bring up the picture.
Bring up the picture. You got
Yeah,
to, Charles. You have to bring
Was
up that
Capital Exchange? Did you guys receive money
No,
for
it was
promoting
free.
KFC?
They paid for
They
it.
paid for it.
Yeah.
KFC paid for the whole meal.
We spent $200 on KFC for the team, Direwolves.
What a sponsorship.
Yeah, it was just one off though.
It's a one-off.
Excellent.
So Charles, remember the social media post, please.
Yeah. I'll enjoy that.
That was a good meal.
If anyone wants to help us out at Broken by Concept, I'm taking applications for an intern currently. It is an unpaid position,
for
and it is
editing.
to listen to the podcast and pull stuff up.
Oh, man.
Let me know. Write in.
All right, our next email here comes from Ryan. The title of this one is Written Notes on Reviews and Learning Objectives. Hey guys, I've been listening to the BBC for a little while, over 2 years, despite not being an active League player. I found this podcast when I was briefly starting to learn League, but I'm a tactical FPS player at heart and ultimately went back to Valorant and Counter-Strike, my main games. I continue listening to your podcast because I really enjoy thinking and learning about the improvement process and growth mindset, and I try to apply the general concepts you talk to the Val and Counter-Strike. to Valorant Counter-Strike. One thing I've struggled with in VOD reviews is that I have a habit of wanting to be a bit too thorough. I've created a spreadsheet to try track my games and write down my notes and observations from my reviews, as well as my current learning objectives. Over time, this has been started feeling like a bit of like a burden. Undoubtedly, it's helpful to organize my thoughts in this way, but I'm wondering if I'm being a bit inefficient and ultimately spending too much time on the review side of things. It can feel a bit overwhelming if I get behind on reviews and have to catch up. Is this something you have given much thought about? Maybe I should just keep a short list of my current learning objectives based on my reviews, but not record my notes for each and every game. What are your thoughts? And he's attached the spreadsheet. Let's see what this looks like. So yeah.
Oh, pretty intense notes.
So this is some pretty.
Okay, so at a high level,
Wow.
whenever your hobby time feels like a chore, that's when you fucked up. Okay, so whether it's Counter-Strike, Valorant, League, any game that you play, it should never feel like a chore. It should never feel monotonous.
Like this looks like homework.
Looks like homework, and it should never feel like homework. It should never. That
scares you, Nathan. This really scares you.
It's very scary. So the reality is that you need to do as much as you're comfortable doing, but also you need to engage in some common sense here. And I want to give you some tips for some common sense with your reviews, right? I'm going to say with every game, you need to start ticking off the big things first and then slowly getting more granular. Now, again, let's say in the context of League, you don't need to nitpick every single trade or every single team fight or every single deployment on the map. You need to pick a handful of very big things that you felt as though, maybe even 2 or 3 things that you felt as though were significant.
That looks like what he's doing here, though, Curtis. Look at this.
This guy's probably a pretty high-level player because he's playing Face It,
So let's read an example of one of them. So it looks like he has the terrorist side notes and counter-terrorist notes. He has 2 points. The terrorist one, he said, not confident in taking fights first, not diligent about saying close to learn to trade, take fights and trade with conviction. And the CT is a couple of other
pretty high level stuff.
And then general notes. Generally uncomfortable on train and Face It. Need to study ProPov on train on both CT and T. Is that, you think that's based on what you're saying, Curtis? It's like 2 or 3 things, right? I mean, maybe this is for a game. That's like 5 things for one game.
Go down. Are they all like that?
Nah, one says really specific there. What does it say? Scroll up a tiny bit. It said, when smoked off B, CT with teammate in sight, flash pit. Swing through smoke. That's just a very specific sequence he's discussing there.
Okay, so
I mean, I don't know. A lot of Counter-Strike is more rote learned than League. You can't really rote learn sequences as much as you can.
Well, I can't comment on the specifics of Counter-Strike, right?
Is he doing his flashbang correctly? Let the people know.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to comment on it, but but the reality is that notes in gaming. Look, I've bounced between this. I really have. I think for certain people, notes can be effective, but you need to find your way of taking notes and how are you using your notes, because the reality is that you writing down here, I need to do this smoke in this site. Are you really going to look back over this? And if you are going to look back over this, are you going to remember it? Like the reality is that you need to understand shit intuitively.
Yeah, there's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. Like I've always viewed notes as like a bookmark. You should be able to skim over it very quickly and be like, okay, I kind of remember what was going on. Okay, and then it really re-jogs your memory. I don't even want to get into the specifics of what notes you should and shouldn't take.
Yeah.
At a high level, if it feels bad, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's really that simple, actually. If it feels like a chore, don't do it.
Notes are very personal. There's no right and wrong answer.
There's no right and wrong answers. Whatever, exactly right, Charles. It's whatever feels good for you. And I think that I really think that when it comes to learning in games, it's how much you care about it. Like if you care a lot about the notes you're taking, you're probably going to get a lot out of it. If you're really disengaged, like, oh yeah, what happened?
Gotta write my notes.
It's going to go in one ear, out the other. It's just not going to do it. It's not going to lead to any underlying behavior change. So you be okay with being a little bit messy with your process. It doesn't need to be like every game I do this and I must review in like, so I'm just going to speak for myself. Sometimes I'll review after the game. Sometimes I'll review my games in the next day. Sometimes I'll just skip a review. I'm just feeling low energy. I just don't want to review the game. I had a pretty good idea of what happened and I want to move on.
Yep.
Be flexible. Be flexible and honest with yourself. And the reason
it's a hobby.
It's a hobby, but also the key with any process in any game is sustainability. That's the most important thing. What is fundamentally sustainable for you, given your time, the energy you have, and what is enjoyable? That's it.
So his question here was about his fear was he might be too thorough and overcomplicating things. Let's say he enjoys the notes. He loves the notes. Is there a world where even though he's enjoying it, let's say he could do this forever, he's overcomplicating it?
Well, I think there's a benefit to this as maybe just an act of meditation. Like, it doesn't have to be like getting every ounce of learning from the VOD by getting your link in the right spot. Some people just like this. It's like journaling.
Yeah.
People really enjoy typing stuff out in the right cells.
I don't think it can ever be detrimental as long as you're enjoying it.
No,
I think
yeah,
it can,
100%.
I think it can only be detrimental if it's taking away from your time playing another game or you're not enjoying it. I think they're the only two ways it can be detrimental.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's talking from a league perspective. You know, you can theorize and study about the game as much as you want, but you still really need to realize that the building the intuition aspect is really, really important. So it's like a fine line, because some people go like they think that this is 70% of the improvement. But
That's a good point. I think the notes can make you worse, Curtis. I'm going to challenge you on that slightly based on what Nathan just said. You could turn into a massive theorist if you're just writing essays
and
on
it's
the
just
game.
rigid. It's rigid.
Yeah.
It's like in this scenario, it's like sometimes I see people try and do. They come up with a flow chart of like
They want the
decision-making.
flowchart
They want the
solutions.
flow
Exactly
chart,
right. Yes.
which is too. It actually that hinders you a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I find with sometimes
They
what
want
these
if
people go
statements.
to.
I
If
found a lot of
statements.
programmers want this as well. They
Yeah.
want like if this then that, and that's helpful to like guide you to the answer, but that's not the answer a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think these notes are that bad though.
No,
No, I
it's
think
fine.
this is a good way of doing it.
I
This is
agree.
I think these notes are pretty practical.
I've done stuff like this for short periods of time, but again, I don't think it's sustainable for the average person. But if you enjoy it, go for it.
Yeah, because again, the fear is it just doesn't. Your point, Curtis, you just want to make sure that people are still having fun.
Yes.
Yep.
And it just doesn't turn into your hobby doesn't turn into some sort of, some
It's a chore.
chore. Yeah.
I'm just looking at these map names and I just want to play some Counter-Strike now.
We should.
Train.
He's talking a lot about flash usage, Curtis. Flashes.
Yeah, you got to know your flashes and you know your smokes, right?
I hate grenades.
So boring. It's just like memorizing where to put your cursor.
Just remove grenades. Make it a name game.
That's Curtis's
That's
take.
my OG. That's my completely
Boomer.
delusional,
That's
unhinged
boomer.
boomer take
No, it's
right
just
there.
boomer. It's not delusional.
Yeah,
It's just a boomer take.
Yeah, it's disgraceful.
All right, we're gonna wrap up this episode before we turn into a Counter-Strike episode.
Yep.
Good work, guys. Let's keep on improving. 3-block process review. Don't turn your hobby into a chore. We'll see you guys next week.